fastest show in sports.
Our main story in the show. This one's going to take a little time. But it also means we have to understand a few things. I want to introduce you to Rudi Johnson. Rudi Johnson was a running back in the National Football League. He had 3 1,000-yard seasons. Pretty good. And he was in the Pro Bowl. Rudi Johnson was recently inducted into his high school Hall of Fame. And Rudi Johnson sent this message to his school and to the students watching.
Hey everyone, sorry I couldn't be with you to accept this award, but I wanted to give a big thank you for the honor of being inducted into the Chesterfield Hall of Fame. I also want to say thank you to all my coaches and all my teammates who helped me along the way. My first stop up in this journey was playing youth football for the Ettrick Trojans. Playing with the Ettrick Trojans, I also had the opportunity to play with a great coach named Kenny Coombs, my first ever head coach. He told me, keep your head on straight, stay focused, and one day we'll see you on Monday Night Football. I took those words of encouragement. Next stop up, before it was all said and done, me and Coach Coombs and the rest of my teammates, we were able to win the first ever Super Bowl championship trophy back from my beloved Ettrick Trojans, which meant a great deal to me, my community, my friends, and everyone, and family. From then on, the next stop up was Thomasville High School, where I also had the honor and the privilege to play under Coach Vic Williams, who taught me a lot about hard work, discipline, dedication. At Thomasville, I got the chance to grow under a lot of other great coaches. One I want to give a very, very special shout out, Coach Henry Jefferson, was a great coach on the field, great mentor off the field. My journey in my time in Thomasville High School, I cherished every moment of it. All 4 years was a different challenge. We won a lot of games, and there was a lot of heartache at the end when we didn't pull through in the crunch time. But through the journey of them all, from Little League, from Ettrick to Thomasville High School, it was all worth it, and all of the relationships that were built along the way. I want to give a special shout out to all the people who came before me, the alumni from Thomasville High School and Ettrick Trojans. Also, the same people who came after me. So, with that being said, I just want to say, dream big, shoot for the stars, stay focused, never give up. And one more thing, to all the kids from Chesterfield County, I'll be watching for the next star to be born.
Inspirational words from Rudi Johnson. Rudi Johnson will not be watching, because not long after he recorded that, Rudi Johnson was found dead. Police say that there was no foul play, and it is likely a suicide. At 45 years of age, he killed himself. And there's a lot of consideration after watching and talking to his family that he very likely suffered from CTE, the brain damage that results from concussions and blows to the head that has been a point of contention in football, especially in the National Football League now for many years. Those signs of CTE, some people would like to discount and say it's not a big deal. It's not as bad as people think it is. But it remains a silent killer, which is, as we speak, working its way not only through the NFL, but through younger generations of football players. I want to take you back to 2017 and a story about CTE that included a former football player by the name of Ted Johnson. No relation. Listen closely.
You know, I got all of my concussions doing normal football techniques, movements I was taught.
Former Patriot linebacker Ted Johnson still works out, but fears his decade-long NFL career is slowly destroying his brain.
You try not to think about it. A lot of people ask me, did you see that movie Concussion? It's like, no, I don't need to see it. I kind of know what it's all about.
Indeed, a study published today confirms what many have long suspected, a link between the battering sustained by a football player's head and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, an abnormal protein that damages and eventually destroys brain tissue, causing depression, memory loss, and dementia.
Oh, I think they're scary numbers. I think they're very frightening numbers.
Dr. Ann McKee of the BU Med School studied the donated brains of more than 200 football players and found CTE in all but one NFL veteran, all but 5 college players, and even in 21% of those who only played in high school.
What it says to us is we need to address these youth sports. Understand how many impacts is too many. Should they consider starting to play at a later, more mature age? We think they should.
I think it's going to be a game changer. I really do.
The NFL, though, may be harder to convince, even though it has already reached a $1 billion settlement with a bunch of former players and has pledged $100 million more for research.
But it's inherently a dangerous game.
Which is why Dr. McKee wants to focus on youngsters.
So if we can identify it early in those young players that just have the very minimal changes, we would have a real shot at curing the disease.
Ted Johnson said it best. It is inherently a dangerous game. So are others. There's a lot of CTE that comes out of soccer and the striking of heads. Hockey, they're now concerned about it, and many other sports as well. The terrible thing about that story is, again, that was done in 2017. Ted Johnson is today, as we speak, fearful that he is indeed in the stages of CTE. The only way to discern if someone is suffering from CTE is when they're dead, when you get a look at their brain. But if you research it right now, you'll find that Ted Johnson is suffering a lot of the different issues that come along with CTE, and he is likely going to get worse. And he understands that. He understood the dangers, but he also understands that what was a sport that he played because he loved it, he enjoyed it, he wanted to be a football player, it now very likely is killing him, as it is killing others. We move forward to 6 years later after that report and focusing on the younger players.
Drew Mulligan played hockey throughout high school and college and took a lot of hits. By the time he turned 22, his family had noticed changes.
His impulse control was basically non-existent.
So Mulligan's sister says after he died by suicide, her family decided to donate his brain to Boston University, where researchers confirmed he did indeed have chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE.
It's very painful to kind of come to grips with how much he most likely suffered.
In a newly published study, BU researchers say they looked at the brains of 152 donors who died of unrelated causes. All were under the age of 30, all had played contact sports like hockey, football, and soccer, and all had CTE symptoms. When their brains were examined, about 41% were confirmed to have had the brain lesions characteristic of CTE.
What's important about this to me is it can occur quite early.
For example, the study's lead author says they found CTE in a 28-year-old woman who'd played soccer in college. The study did not compare young athletes to non-athletes, so there's no way to know how much sports contributes to CTE. But researchers say it is enough to show that some sports need to change.
It's imperative that we start to get very serious about eliminating what we call head impacts in these sports.
We started this out by talking about Rudi Johnson, who at the age of 45 most likely committed suicide and was suffering the results, the symptoms, if you will, of CTE. In that study they did just 2 years ago, 152 were studied. All of them had symptoms of CTE. When they died, 41% had the disease. That's almost half. The Rudi Johnson death has to make us take a breath, step back. We certainly have seen the preponderance of concussions in the National Football League again. One story is Tua Tagovailoa, who's a very good player for the Miami Dolphins. He has suffered numerous concussions. He has been held out on concussion protocol. It is very likely, if you speak to the doctors and the researchers that are involved in CTE, they will tell you that very likely Tua is going to suffer some effects of CTE later in life. Now, these are grown men and grown women. In those cases, they make the decisions. They are faced with the medical fact that says if you continue to play football, soccer, hockey, there's a very good chance that you will be a vegetable as you get older. Very good chance. Maybe half, maybe more. We don't know. But these are adults making these decisions. And we have to realize they're allowed to make them. They're adults. It's your body. Do with it as you please. But that then brings us to the kids. To the kids playing Pee-wee football, Pop Warner football, high school football, to the kids playing in junior hockey, to the kids who are playing in hockey where there's not a lot of hitting when you're a young kid. There certainly isn't the kind of hitting you see as the game gets faster and stronger when you get to the college level and then the pros. But there is still the impact. In soccer, where the header is a popular play, every time a head comes together, every time the head and the brain are moving when they come together. Shakes the brain. Kids doing this. So we have to now ask ourselves, do we want our kids to continue to play sports, a sport where there's the chance that we are committing them to a terrible future? Might not happen. See, I guess that's what people will say. They'll come back in this conversation, in this argument, and say, wait a minute, Ed, not everybody gets CTE. You just said it, only 41%. There's a good chance that my kid's going to be just fine. You're right, there is. There's also a good chance your kid could become the adult who later in life is unable to remember anybody's name, can't have decent motor functions, forgets to eat, can't hold a job, can't recognize their kids or their grandkids. It's all possible. This is a story without any real resolution. But I felt in this show, in this concept, very few shows will bring this to the fore. You don't see this on ESPN. You see it if a story happens and a player dies and is found to have had CTE, but you don't see them doing any real stories on it. You don't see Fox Sports doing it. They're in bed with the National Football League, with the NBA, with the National Hockey League. They don't want to hurt their cash cow because that's where the money comes from, but that's also where the injuries come from. I don't have an answer for this. I really don't. I have been affected by it in my personal life with people I know. I know several people who have been diagnosed with CTE. I know several people who are fearful and have told me flat out they know that they have it, but we're not going to know until they're dead. So this is a personal thing to me. I don't know what the answer is. The National Football League hid this, covered it up for decades. They allowed their players to die, all for the buck, all for the bang, all for the game. They paid out a lot of money for it. Now they're taking instances such as the new helmets, the new gear to try and stop the possibility, but you can't. It's not possible with the way the heads come together and the brain gets jarred. The brain sits there in a fluid, floating. Inside the head, the skull is smooth on the outside. Inside, it contains points and bone. The brain bangs up against it. It gets injured. It gets punctured. And the damage is done. I just want to bring this to the fore in the discussion. I would love to hear from people who are worried about their kids, who are worried about their brothers, who are worried about their sisters, who are worried about people who could be affected by this. What do you do? Here is the question. You're a parent. Your kid plays hockey, football, soccer, and maybe your kid boxes. And you condone that, and you push that. How do you feel? Are you worried? Do you want to stop? And when do you stop taking chances? When do you start taking chances? When do you get to the point where you say, I have to stop this because I don't want my kid, my husband, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my cousin to die? And is a sport worth dying for? That's the biggest issue here. We'll continue to follow this story because I think it's important. Along the social media line, we may get 3 views of the video. Okay. That's 3 lives we may have changed. I'll take it. It's a good place to start.
That's all, folks.